Good morning. For the past couple of weeks, Tim and I have been thinking about home. What are our own stories about home? What makes home and what does our faith say about it? And can TLU or even Seguin become home for students? So today we want to share some of our reflections on these questions. And as we understand, many of you may be coping with homesickness or grappling with the question of where is home?
I was born in San Antonio, but my earliest memories are of a two-story yellow house in Rosenberg, now a suburb of Houston. A few years later, when I was in second grade, my parents bought a house and 8 acres of land out in the country near the town of Orchard, which is where they still live today. As I think about home on a personal level, I'm really not sure what to describe. From second grade on, we didn't live in a city or a neighborhood. Our closest neighbors were a good stone's throw away, and we were cordial but not particularly close to them. Kids at school came mostly from farming and ranching families. I vividly recall a sign that my parents hung over the driveway not long after we moved into the area, proclaiming our piece of land as Orchard Farms. You can just barely make it out. My city slicker parents thought that this was probably thought that this was cute, but the kids at school were really quick and really ruthless in making fun of me and us for thinking that our little piece of land actually qualified as a farm. That was one of many ways in which it was made clear to me over the years that I was not from there. And 10 years later, when I graduated from high school, I still felt like an outsider. Now, coupled with this, you should also know that growing up, I was pretty nerdy. I lacked self-confidence, and I didn't hit puberty until late in high school. I truly was a 90-pound weakling. And to be honest, things haven't changed that much. All of this made me a popular target for bullying. Halfway into high school, though, my life changed when at a church event I was befriended by a Japanese-American second-generation youth named Kenzo. He was, in hindsight, also searching for home. Kenzo was a lot of things I wished I could be, especially popular, and he was funny, too. Largely because of his active campaigning on my behalf, I was elected as a leader in the Lutheran Youth Organization, first for the region stretching from Houston to New Orleans, and later on a national level. Thanks to him, I met youth who accepted me for who I was and allowed me to become things I had not been before. I developed self-confidence, and I began to see myself as a leader. My closest friends quickly became a diverse group of Lutheran youth scattered across hundreds and even thousands of miles. So by the time I started at Texas Lutheran in the fall of 1995, I was ready to reinvent myself, to escape the boxes I had been living in for too long. I was ready to discover home.
In my 7-year-old mind, home was number 15, a red house with a basketball hoop 3 doors down from my grandparents and right next door to my best friend, Bree. It wasn't a perfect home, but that's where I made mud pies and lots of chalk drawings with Bree and learned a love of reading and theater from my parents. Now, my parents have been my biggest supporters, but for a lot of different reasons, they haven't always made the best choices. When I was in second grade, my older brother Matt and I were removed from my parents' home for the first time and placed in foster care. After a couple of weeks staying with separate foster families, the pastor from our church and his wife gave us a new home. And in a lot of ways, they adopted me as their 5th daughter, and their whole family welcomed us in as a part of the Jebsen clan. And for 9 months, I got a glimpse of what it was like to be a PK, or a pastor's kid. Again, in 7th grade, history repeated itself for a lot of the same reasons, and I went to live with my oldest brother, Brian, and his new wife for a year. Despite the pain of having to leave again, I was excited to finally have a big sister, and to live with someone who was a little more in tune to my teenage interests. So while it was really traumatic for me to be separated from my parents at such crucial times in my life, I had the blessing of experiencing what it meant to be raised by a village. Multiple families and couples are responsible for raising me to be the woman I am today. For each new house I stayed in became home, not because that's where I slept or ate, but because of the relationships of love and support and comfort that was found there. In the Jepsons' arms, I found comfort amidst the terror of starting 3rd grade at a brand new school. And my sister-in-law taught me to be myself, despite the pressure to try to fit in at school. To me, home is where I feel love, joy, support, and it's a safe space to be myself.
Oh Lord, I love the house in which you dwell, the place where your glory abides. So lovely, gracious and true, to you I lift up my eyes.
A face and a place. Jessica and I decided that there are 2 key components to making something home. One is relational, the other geographical. Both are important. We can have relationships spread over a huge territory. For example, the Lutheran youth across the United States I mentioned. But if they aren't based in a single place, then they don't feel like home. Maybe an extended community, but that's not the same as home. Conversely, we can have deep roots in a single place, but if there aren't relationships, faces, that remind us that we are loved and cared for, that doesn't usually feel like home either. Jessica's story is a good reminder that for some of us, the physical home where we grew up doesn't always feel like home. Home is where faces and places unite. Home is a gut feeling revealed by a deep and personal sense of security, safety. Home is where we put down roots, where we experience the fullness of life in all its wonder and mystery, all its joy and pain. The scriptures make many references to home. Abram is sent by God to a new land, away from his kin and extended family. And he makes a new home, becoming Abraham, the patriarch of 3 modern-day major religions. Joseph's brothers sell him into slavery, but despite being in a new place, surrounded by unknown faces, God blesses him abundantly until one day, in his new home, he welcomes those very same brothers who left him to die, and ultimately, he saves his own people. The prostitute Rahab welcomes spies into her home, and because of her faithfulness, she and her family are saved when their town is destroyed. And we can't forget the disciples of Jesus who leave their homes, their families, the places they have lived. They leave everything to follow Jesus. Looking at the bigger picture, the author of Ecclesiastes insists that there is a season for everything. And to that list, we could add that sometimes God sends us to new places, and sometimes God directs us to stay, to build, to rebuild, to break bread in one another's homes. Theologian Jonathan Wilson Hartgrove notes that the early church saw virtue in staying put. Church leaders often wrote about stability as a gift from God and a prerequisite to experiencing the depths of faith. Which all brings us to the present. College for many of us is a time of transition and change, an opportunity for new friendships, new worldviews, new roots. If we cling stubbornly to everything familiar and comfortable, we can't receive God's gift of realizing a new home. A few days ago, Pastor Greg urged us to let go of our metaphorical backpacks and embrace all things new. The truth is that sometimes we're just carrying too much baggage. How are you letting go of control? How are you trusting God to reveal new experiences of home?
Oh Lord, I love the house in which you dwell, the place where your glory abides. So lovely, gracious and true, to you I lift up my eyes.
I will admit, when I was a student at TLU didn't start to feel like home until sometime around my junior year. But my first couple years, I didn't leave myself open to that possibility. TLU and Seguin were just a stop along the way, and why would I want to make any effort in making it home? TLU and Seguin have obviously not just been a stop along the way, considering I've been a student, Vista volunteer, and now staff member since 2006. I fear those first couple of years, I missed out on a lot of really great opportunities. So here is my challenge to you. Be open. Be open to the possibility that TLU and Seguin can become home too. It's okay to grow some roots here. And as you get to know your peers, be courageous enough to step outside this campus and meet the people of Seguin. And I don't just mean shopping at H-E-B or Walmart or going out to eat. Get involved with local organizations, work alongside, and hear the stories of your neighbors about themselves and the city. And we hope that as you serve with your hands and your feet, you will also learn how to serve with your heart and your soul, and be moved to see with new eyes and to hear with new ears. This great group of students you see on the screen are staff at the Center for Servant Leadership and are here to help you connect to whatever calls to your passions. We invite you to talk to them or us at the back of chapel or anytime at the CSL to find out how you can take a steps towards growing some new roots and making Seguin your home. Home is not just a place to rest or a warm feeling. Home includes the people we care for and a place where we invest our hearts and energy. Join us as we seek in making this place our home and leaving it in better shape than we found it.